live on YouTube. Hello. I've entitled this little video Easter Fool's Day 2018. It's Easter Sunday, and it's also April Fool's Day, although it's past April Fool's Day now because it's gone 12 o'clock. So just some little ramblings about who knows what. I'd started doing this on Facebook, and I talked for a quarter of an hour and played it back and found out that the sound wasn't working. Easter Fool's Day. So I'm putting this on YouTube, and then I can share it on Facebook. I keep saying to myself that I'll do some more of these. I quite like just talking into a screen. I'm trying to write a book at the moment, and I find talking a little easier than just than writing. Maybe it's because I'm lazy. I don't know. The book I'm writing is called Conscious-Contact: The Power to Change, and it's an attempt to bear witness to a lifetime of wrestling with trying to understand and to be myself. And it's in the name of Abdul Mu'min, which means the servant or the slave of the believer. Mu'min is an Arabic term which means believer. There's a surah in the Quran which is entitled Mu'min, and it is also a name of Allah, Ya Allah al-Mu'min, which has a meaning of the bestower or the illuminator of faith, the granter of tranquility, the giver of peace, security and protection. There's a hadith saying of Muhammad, peace be upon him, where God says to the people of paradise, I have broken open a name for you from amongst my names, and this name is Mu'min, so that the believers should not feel sadness and they should not feel fear. So it's a two-way street, is Mu'min, and the thrust of what I'm trying to transmit and communicate is that there is only one thing going on this planet in the middle of this era change. So it really starts from a place of trying to be real, of trying to be myself, of trying to bring a message that actually helps in this time, not only for people away from the fire of leading, but also for the leaders who are in a very difficult place. Many are frightened. And this message begins from a place of contact, the word contact. You can't have the word contact to mean anything, in my view, without the word tact is in that word. Because any message which tries to bear witness to in Arabic the word is tawheed, the unity of existence, and any message which tries to unite the physical and the metaphysical, the quantum physics of the unity of existence and the connectivity of everything, with the message from the unseen that there is only one, that starts from a place of blame or pretending somehow or intimating that the source has made a mistake, that this is just one big accident, that it's all gone wrong, starts from a very dangerous place in terms of inviting people to be well and to be able to move to a better place or a different place or a place of greater sight. Einstein said scientifically that E equals mc squared. He didn't say 2E equals mc squared. And therefore energy is a singularity. It's equal to all of the mass, all of the stuffness of the universe multiplied by light upon light, c squared, the velocity of light squared. So there's one energy knowing itself. How can this be then? How can the one articulate to the many that the many are not disconnected from the source? Whenever the one has articulated before, then we have the religions starting, or the idea of prophets carrying messages. Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the seal of universal prophecy, or the seal of prophethood. And Christ is the seal of universal sainthood. One is an exterior function, one is an interior function. The outer and the inner are connected. And in the Eastern traditions, the Buddha bears witness to the possibility of a connection and a personal experience of enlightenment in this same singularity of energy and connectivity. So, whatever this world is about or isn't about, the messages which come through from the other side of the velvet curtain are very similar, and they're now meeting in a convergence with the laws of physics themselves. So the physics and the metaphysics are walking together. They've walked together always, of course. Fritjof Capra wrote a book in the 70s called The Tao of Physics, where he juxtaposed the science of the day in his day with the messages from the mystics of all the world religions, and marveled at their similarity and their coherence about saying the impossible, really, that the one and the many are the same thing. Richard Hawking has just died, bless him, and he talked about black holes, and he talked about the singularity in physical terms, and about how the science around the singularity of a black hole sets the bounds for the physics and the science of the time, as the properties of black holes and the singularity are theorized about and experimented upon to try to understand the physical world. The metaphysical world, of course, the big black hole is the singularity, which appears to suck everything in, but which also transmits. And this is where the physical and the metaphysical now are united, because Richard Hawkins has said that black holes don't just suck everything in, they transmit as well. So words are vehicles of conveying energy, this single energy, to try to help itself, which is what you are, what we are, help itself, understand itself, know itself, in itself, from itself, and back to itself, in the love of itself to know itself. And that's what the mystic says about God, that we're here in consciousness, we are here in God. The Sufi says that God is the big man, in which we live, move, and have our being. as the Christians also reflect upon this insideness. In the Quran it's said that God is closer to man than his own jugular vein. Again, we are inside something rather than actually on the outside trying to get in. Although we can drive ourselves mad, almost like a fish swimming in an ocean, desperately looking for water, if we get in a place of excessive separation and pain and suffering and fear. And in the middle of the era and change that we're in at the moment, digitally driven, computer driven era change, then the usual combination of opposites, the yin yangness of life, can appear to get even more separated and polarized. And so messages of authenticity from the one are important, even more important at this time, because the pain appears to be unremitting, and the dangers of this era change ever more present in terms of physical calamity and physical warfare. The physical situation is very difficult, and suffering is always to be alleviated if at all possible. And so it isn't enough sometimes to simply talk about Muhammad, peace be upon him, and say that he thought that the physical war was the lesser war, although that is what he said. The lesser jihad is the physical war. The greater jihad is the inner war, to unite the opposites, to let the opposites be united and reconnected and repaired. And that only a connection to a source can do that. So in other words, only God can connect the opposites, to use the words of the Quran. But how can this be articulated today in a way that makes sense, that doesn't just add to the problems? It can only be transmitted from a place of open-heartedness, of being able to not have to worry too much about the words and just know that the energy in the words is authentic and the transmission is from one to one. And that is where Abd al-Mu'min is placed in an effort to try to serve. So again, this word mu'min is an Arabic word for believer and connects to God, the transmitter of faith and protection. Belief in this very technological, scientific world is seen to be less than knowledge. Belief is seen to be belief in Father Christmas and the Tooth Fairy, and something which we have to grow through and then land in this very sophisticated place of knowing something for certain, evidence-based, scientifically checked out and validated, reproducible, auditable, and laudable, so that the science can be checked, so that nobody's being duped into thinking that things aren't as they are in the physical world. If the knowledge is not open and connected to the heart, then it becomes just a mountain of books, a mountain of information on this information superhighway that we're all shackled to now. And the knowledge becomes just ever darker and ever bigger in its import, but unable to deliver, unable to articulate the love we have for each other as men and women in a common human kind. So when Christ was here last time, he said, unless you become like little children, then you'll never understand the kingdom of heaven. Now, he wasn't saying that you should become childish and childlike. He was talking about the importance of being open-hearted, of being in that place that all children are, of being curious, of being able to laugh, of being able to be full of fun, away from any damage or harm that seems so prevalent in all of the cultures through history. Still, this openness of belief is vitally important, and it's reflected in the story of Aladdin, where in those characters which are crafted as a spiritual story, one can see that the vizier in that story, the political figure, the figure of power, of money, is a conniving figure because it lacks something. It lacks the ability to open the knowledge. And the mountain that Aladdin goes to is nothing other than the mountain of knowledge and power, which he is able to say, open sesame to, and it opens. And the treasure house is inside the knowledge, and it opens. This is when belief is reunited and reconnected to knowledge. It's not possible to transmit something that one has not got. I can't and don't want to go into my life story here that enables me to be an authentic transmitter of who I am, Abdul Mu'min. Apart from to mention again this hadith where God speaks to the people of paradise, those who are brought close, when he says, today I have broken open a name for you from amongst my names. So this idea of being broken open is important in terms of reconnecting to belief. Who wants to be broken open? Who wants to have their hypocrisy broken open? Who wants to have their life shattered, like an acorn skin has to shatter to grow into an oak tree? People quite rightly shy away from pain and discomfort. Life takes care of itself. We're all put through situations and calamities and stresses and strains which move us through experiences, and the wine of life eventually, like the ordinary physical wine, which is described as in vino veritas, we get turned inside out. There is no hiding place for any of us, actually. But it seems that the more powerful a person is, the more rich they are sometimes, then the more they strive and struggle to hide and pretend that they are what they aren't. But again, I come in a place of contact. I come in a place of tact. I don't want to blame anything or anybody because this world is perfect. This world is perfect as it is. It is moving along in its just miraculous manifestation of life's energy in matter. And in consciousness, we are all swimming around, sometimes just not quite able to believe or to make the connections that would make that little bit more sense for us as we journey from our birthday to our death day and appear in the middle between birth and death, between going to sleep and waking up, between breathing out and breathing in. So on this Easter day, on this April Fool's Day, this little talk is about what it is to be a fool of God, what it is to be Sufi, what it is to be the madman of God, and to realize that of course it's understandable that people would say, well, you must be mad if you believe that, in terms of the literal renditions sometimes of religion and the mess that religion can get in terms of its history, its politics, its apparent hypocrisy, its collapses. But yet I can do no more than be who I am and to do my best to transmit a message of hope and of authentic connection, that there is actually one source and one destination, and that no matter what has happened to the world's religions, that the source code is actually authentic. A £50 note only has power because there is actually somewhere an authentic £50 note. So all of the cults and all of the charlatans and all of the horror stories around religion swirl around because there is actually at the core of it something more powerful than the intellectual, more powerful than the mental, more powerful than the physical, which gives all of the counterfeit its power in the past to trick and to secure influence in the short term. So what's going to happen now? What am I hoping to achieve by this talk and whatever else happens in terms of talks or writing? I don't know. We're all in this together. The politicians say we're all in this together. We are actually all in this together. We're all facing the conditions which are seemingly very difficult. Physically, especially from where I'm transmitting from, which is in a kind of paradise compared to some places on this planet, everything appears to be all right. And yet the news is relentless in its messaging around urgency and calamity and circumstances which appear to be widening in the distance between them rather than coming together. Politicians talk about the need for the middle ground and securing the middle ground. The middle ground is here when the opposites are connected. When the anode is connected to the cathode, the ode, which is common to both, manifests in an ode to joy, no matter how difficult the conditions. The answer is in the middle, as Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, as the Buddha said, the answer is in the middle. But you don't have a middle if the opposites and the terminals are not connected. So this message is to say that there is a disconnect. There is a divide and rule. There's a divide and rule which has gone unconsciously for a long, long time by the people in charge of mass mechanics. It appears to be the only way in their world. And maybe it's not possible to rise up physically. And I'm certainly not advocating that there should be any rising up and revolt. It's a waste of time. And the more that one rises up physically, then the more than the physical forces just harden in their disconnecting reaction patterns. And it's, again, I don't blame any of that. It is possible to urge for a metaphysical uprising of love and hope and understanding that there is actually one, and that belief can be connected to knowledge and it will open. It is possible to say, open sesame, even as I turn this music up and hear the swell and the hope in these vibrations and harmonies, that in the middle of your knowledge there is a wealth of your own personal connectivity, which if you hear the energy in these words, you can rise up metaphysically, safely, legally, and then anything can happen, you see, anything can happen when it's one-to-one, when the human, being a man, meets the human, being a woman, to love itself. I wish you a very happy Easter, and thanks for listening. And this recording exercise, I'll be back, I feel sure, and I will try and get some writing done so that the orthodox recording can be done. But I look forward to speaking with you again. All right. Thank you very much. Bye.